Well, we're back in Colossians. We are actually starting a new chapter today as we get into chapter 2 of Colossians. Here's the color key that you can pause on if you want to look at that. But got that for you. But one of the things that I want to talk about as we come to this, I think we talked about a little bit with titles such as this right here, that those are man-made. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it. And chapters and verses, it's helpful for reference. It's helpful for somewhat a natural study cut off and start and things like that. But part of the problem that happens is when you see a chapter, oftentimes we think, oh, that's a new thought. There's new things going on. But you're going to see as we go through this today that this actually is not a new thought. This is a continuation of what was going on in chapter 1. This is a letter. It really is a letter. It's cut up into chapters and verses for reference, but not necessarily for study's sake. So it's hard to do, and it doesn't come naturally to us to ignore these breaks, but it is helpful sometimes to at least kind of go back a little bit and see, does this add up into this? Because sometimes they break it at a natural spot where there is a new thought. But that term "for" right there. So as we start, you'll see, for I want you to know how great a struggle I have for you, and for those at Laodicea, and for all who have not seen me face to face, that their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, to reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, which is Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. So you have this term "for," this word "for," which is a continuation. There's a thought going on that grammar kind of exposes to us and indicates. So that chapter 2 is not a break in thought. It's just a break in reference, and that's basically all it is. Um, but even this struggle that Paul is having, he says, I want you to know this struggle. Well, that goes back up to chapter 1, where he says, I'm struggling with all his energy that he powerfully, with all the energy, his energy that powerfully works within me. He's struggling. So these two are connected. I sometimes I like to mark the connection because I sometimes get lost because of those chapters, but also it's easy to just lose the connection because this struggle that he is struggling for, not only those you've seen, but those who have not yet seen him face to face, he hasn't met. What is he trying to do? Well, that we may present everyone mature in Christ. That's what, for this, I'm struggling with. So this is the struggle to bring everyone to maturity in Christ. And that helps as you go forward, because as you start marking this, it's not just a struggle Paul is having. He wants them to know how great a struggle I have for you, and for those at Laodicea, and for all who have not seen me. So he's literally struggling for others. A struggle that I have for you, and for all who have not seen me face to face. It doesn't necessarily mean you only struggle for those. And actually, you could even just, for highlight purposes, maybe just gone there. But you know, you look at this and go, he's struggling for everybody, which is a huge issue in our hearts, because oftentimes we look at Christianity as it's kind of what comes easy. What is it that we're going to have an easy time of? But even later on in Colossians, you have where I think it's Epaphras. I don't know, but it's in Colossians 4. But he's wrestling or struggling um, in prayer. And then you have Paul, where he says in Second Timothy 2:10ish, where he talks about that he endures all things for the sake of the elect, endures for the elect, um, so that as that's going forward, he's serving a purpose for those he knows and for those he may not even yet know. And that actually, boy, that makes me think about First Corinthians 9. I don't know. 19ish, I don't know, 9, 11, or 12ish. where he puts up with all things, puts up with all things, not to hinder the gospel, not to hinder the gospel. So that's for reference to look back on. But these are the things that he's doing in this verse. As you look at this, is this such an example to us that he's not only struggling because it's just what you're supposed to do, but he's struggling for the sake of other souls. He's struggling for their growth, for their betterment in the Lord. So when we look at this again, we go back up. The chapter breaks for the reference, but the thought is continuing on that he is seeking to really to present everyone mature in Christ, and he's toiling, he's struggling with all of God's energy for the sake of those he knows, and even for those he's yet to come to know. He is watching his life and doctrine closely, struggling in prayer, struggling in his acts, and enduring hardship, going through anything rather than hindering the gospel, so that others may actually know the mystery of Christ, as he goes on to say. But that's all the time we have for verse 1 here, but we'll continue on in verse 2 in our next video. So until then, God bless you, and may his grace be with you.